Thanks for listening to Baxie's Musical Podcast with my guest today, Hugo Burnham from the Gang of Four. If you like what you hear today, be sure to follow and subscribe, like it, rate it, share it with everyone you know. Be sure to follow on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook for regular updates on future episodes. Today, we're brought to you by Metro Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram at Chicopee. Be sure to stop by their state-of-the-art dealership next to BJ's and Big Y on Memorial Drive, or stop by MetroJeep.com and drive home in your new Metro Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram today.
It's Baxie's Musical Podcast. Resistance is useless.
On September 25th, 1979, the Gang of Four released their debut album called Entertainment. At the time of its release, it was a highly political but wildly praised fusion of funk, post-punk, reggae, and dub. In other words, unlike a lot of the records that were coming out at the time, Entertainment was angular, intense, dissonant, but also pretty danceable. Regardless of that, Gang of Four's first album would become an important and highly influential record, an influence that is still felt today. At the time of its release, the New Music Express, better known as the NME, listed Entertainment as the fifth best record of the year. Rolling Stone reviewed the album by saying that Entertainment was the best debut album by a British band, punk or otherwise, since the first Clash album in 1977. Years later, Rolling Stone would still be talking about it, listing it at number 273 on their list of the 500 greatest albums of all time back in 2020. Pitchfork magazine has written that it was the eighth best record of the 1970s. It's also listed in Robert Dimery's book, 1001 Albums You Must Listen to Before You Die, from 2005. In other words, Entertainment is a highly regarded piece of work, even after 4.5 decades since it was released. Gang of Four is a profoundly significant band who has been inspiring some of the most important artists ever since they came out, including Kurt Cobain from Nirvana, R.E.M., the Red Hot Chili Peppers, the Melvins, Helmet, Mission to Burma, Saccharine Trust. The list really goes on and on. Over the years, Gang of Four released 10 studio albums, including their 1981 follow-up, Solid Gold, and 1982's Song of the Free. They've also released several live albums, a number of EPs, and an amazing Grammy Award-nominated box set called Gang of Four 77 through 81, which came out in 2021. That year, I welcomed Gang of Four drummer Hugo Burnham to the podcast to talk about the band and about the box set and about his career in and out of Gang of Four. You see, Hugo has been a studio musician, a record executive, a manager, and a professor at several colleges throughout the state of Massachusetts, including the New England Institute of Art, where he eventually served as the dean of students, Emerson College, and then Endicott College in Beverly, Mass. The Gang of Four reformed several years ago after the death of guitar player Andy Gill and continues to tour today. The band now includes Hugo Burnham, original lead singer John King, bass player Gail Greenwood from Belly and L7, as well as guitar player Ted Leo, who recently joined the band just months ago. This year, the Gang of Four has decided that it's finally time to call it quits, but not without a farewell tour of the U.S., which begins this spring. The name of the tour is The Long Goodbye, and the U.S. leg kicks off at the Westport Public Library in Westport, Connecticut on April 18th. Then they'll be at the Glut in Gloucester, Mass. on the following night, and on April 20th at the Chrystal Ballroom at the Somerville Theater. During the tour, the band will play Entertainment in its entirety, as well as many other Gang of Four classics. To talk about the tour and the band and their decision to end the Gang of Four is drummer Professor Hugo Burnham on Baxie's Musical Podcast.
Hey, Baxie, how's it going, man?
Good to see you again.
Yeah, I'm so overwhelmed with stuff at the moment. I almost forgot this. And I couldn't remember if it's me or whether John's joining us or what, or whether this is one of a series or.
It's just you and me, but that's but I'm perfectly happy with that.
Yeah, great.
So the last time we spoke was 2021. It was just about the time that the 77-81 box set had been released or was about to be released, and we talked a lot about your career in and out of Gang of Four, because frankly it's just as interesting, if not more interesting, then the band. And I want to talk about some of that stuff in a little bit. But before we do, the band is getting back on the road for their final tour, their final North American tour. Tell me about the decision leading up to that. Wait, what led you and John to decide to finally put this to rest?
Well, there's a number of things. This year is the 45th anniversary of the release of Entertainment in the US. The UK was at the end of 79, but everything's pretty much centered here. So it just felt like we're also so there's a lot of things. One, it's hard work and not easy touring. I mean, I'm not complaining. We love doing it, but putting it all together, making it work financially is hard. I mean, everyone says, oh, you're only turning 69 or 70. Look at Mick Jagger. I said, yeah, pay me $1 million a show and I'll be there. Much. $1 million a show. I could almost pay off my daughter's tuition with that. But anyway, it just seemed like a good time, family things and work things. John's grandchildren are taking up more time in his life, and it just seemed like a good idea and a good place to do it. And when we say it's the last tour we're doing, it's the last tour we're doing. I mean, if somebody comes up and says, hey, you're going to get 50 grand for playing at a big festival, one-off thing, we might consider it. But it's also hard because, as you've probably read by now, that we have a new guitar player. Ted Leo is joining us.
And he just started like a matter of weeks ago.
Yeah. Our dear, lovely David Parho is, things are changing in his life. He's spending more time when he just put out an album of his own under his band name, Papa M. And I think they're doing a few shows, but I think the stress of touring more and, headlining the sort of shows that we do, I think it was just getting to him. I think his business, he has a building business. He has a business building and customizing guitars, which he's really take off for him. And I think he likes to be able to keep doing that. I think he loves doing it. It brings him joy. He doesn't have to go anywhere. He doesn't have to wake up in different hotel rooms or remember to get on a bus or in a van on time. And I also think just home-wise, I mean, his teenage son is spending more time with him as his daughter's off to college now. So I think he also wanted to have a bit more sort of level security, rather than, I got a tour here. Oh, what am I doing for the next 3 months? And that, which is understandable. And physically, I think touring became quite hard for him.
I think it's interesting, though, that you're starting off this tour in Gloucester, Mass, on April 19th, and then the Chrystal Ballroom in Somerville. How did you convince the rest of the band to start the tour off so close to your house?
Yeah, I mean, it's really easy because we played there back at the end of October last year at this fabulous new venue called The Cut, which has the most amazing people. The crew, the team that run the venue are wonderful. And we sold that out, and it was a great show. And when the original first show of the tour was Boston, but that sold out so quickly that we thought, well, hell, we all have to gather in Gloucester anyway, because, they stay at my house, they stay with friends, and we have good rehearsal space here and everything, which we use. We rehearse when school's out. We rehearse here in the band room at Endicott College, which they very graciously allow us to do. And the rest of the time we rehearse. There's a fabulous recording studio and rehearsal space in the same building as the Cut in Gloucester called Bang a Song Studios. And that's owned and run by Tony Goddess, who used to be in Papas Fritas. And he's also the technical director for the Cut. So it all just fits in very nicely as a good place to start because, I mean, when David was in the band, he was in Southern California. I was here. When it was Sarah Lee, she's in New England, but now it's Gail Greenwood from Belly and L7. Yeah, she's in Rhode Island. John's in, it's like an easier place to gather in the middle and start from. So that's why we chose that. And in fact, because the Cut show sold out within 2 days of us announcing it from the stage in October. It's like, fucking hell. And then actually, it's not the very first show. The very first show will be at the Westport Public Library in Connecticut on Good Friday. Because they approached us and said we do a few shows a year, and we're hooking it in with John has a book being published in March, April, called To Hell with Poverty. It's his memoir about his life up till 1984. Yeah, ironically. So they're doing a book event at the library, and then we'll play after that. And he's doing a few around the places we tour as well. So it's all good. So yeah, why now? That was it. It's the reason. It's just tiring, and I still have a job. I mean, the Endicott College has been very gracious, letting me take some time away, even though I'm still working because most of my work is advising, and I do it remotely. Going away at 6 a.m. on the tour bus, I'm clacking away on my computer.
I want to ask you about this because, this is a pretty extraordinary thing because, here you are talking about shows that sell out immediately. A couple of years ago, you put out this box set. The vinyl version sells out immediately. And there is this, a reputation and a reverence about Gang of Four, particularly about entertainment. And it just seems to be one of these things that has gone on for generation after generation of people that have taken that music so personally and it has been so important to people. As a guy who is in that, I mean, how do you see Gang of Four's place here? Because it really, I mean, it is a band that really truly has inspired countless people over the years.
Yeah, we have. We occupy a bit of a strange place. We used to say back in the day, oh, well, we're sort of like the Velvet Underground, we never had a hit, but everyone, the people who heard us all went out and formed bands and had hits. And I think we definitely fit into that, although, subsequently, of course, Velvet Underground took off. And we're still where we are. In a way, it's a good place to be because the expectations from people demanding we play big shows or get on the radio and have hits. We don't have that. I mean, there are bands of our era that are doing fantastically well. I mean, Psychedelic Furs, fantastic. They keep going and keep going. They keep putting out new music. They're really good, and they're still fabulous live. I mean, Modern English is another one. I mean, one great hit, but boy, do they keep working and keep touring, and they're great. So we just, I guess because we've had other things in our lives during and, since the early days and during, there's not quite the pressure that the only way we can make a living is through music. Not that many people ever do. We do it for fun. We do it because it means something to us and obviously to a lot of other people. But, like I said, we're playing medium to medium large size shows. We're not playing the big places. And it's a little bit less pressure. So that's nice. But yeah, it's always a risk. It's not like the old days when you had record companies and people supporting you financially to go on tour. This stuff has to work financially because it's our money and it's John's and my risk. But, we work hard to keep costs down and make sure it's comfortable for everybody. No more sharing rooms or beds like the early days.
Well, this is a very different perspective to be looking at this at 69 years old as opposed to when you're 22 and putting this out. And I would imagine that, both you and John see your music career in very, very different ways, and especially the way it developed and shook out over the years. In looking back at it now, how different are things for you today in this setting in Gang of Four than it was in 1979?
I guess back then we were sort of taking it in our stride, a mixture of, of course we're doing this. Of course we deserve what we're getting. And at the same time thinking, wow, aren't we lucky? But now it's just like we are very lucky to still be relevant enough that we can tour and we can sell out shows. I mean, not all of them, but we're doing so far. That we're still, what we do is interesting. What we do is fun. what we do is, I guess, inspiring. And as I think I may have mentioned to you last time, I mean, part of the excitement for us is the audiences are not all old guys. In 22, that we would see people in their late teens and early 20s. So that's good. So I don't know what else to say about the difference between now and then, apart from the fact I'm probably 80 pounds heavier than I was back then. And it hurts.
Yeah, I bet. And especially as a drummer too, because I mean, you're talking about a real physical and athletic vocation here. It's not like you can just stand there with a guitar or sit down. I mean, everything is moving at 69 years old. There's a lot of guys that give up at that point.
Yeah, but there are also a lot of guys still out there playing, and who play a lot more regularly than I do at whatever level, and which is brilliant. I mean, I have immense respect for anyone who's really pounding it all the time. It's more occasional for me, and it's therefore it's harder. I'm sort of building myself up to do this tour now. I'm sort of getting myself, I wouldn't say back in shape like I was 23. That'll never happen, but yeah, because we're playing 2 sets a night. Generally, there aren't going to be any opening acts. We're playing set 1 is going to be entertainment, track by track, from start to finish. And let me tell you, Guns Before Butter is a bitch to play. I'm trying. That's the one that's really hard to try to relearn the riff to, which I acted and stole from John Maher the Buzzcocks anyway, from Moving Away from the Pulse Beat. My floppy version of that.
That's not the one where say, well, here's the acoustic version of that, where you're just going to play a tambourine.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, John is in incredibly good shape, but he's a tall, skinny bastard and always was. I hate him for it. But he doesn't just stand there singing, and it's a lively show. And Gail, who started playing with us last fall, has brought a fabulous element to the whole thing. I mean, she is cool ass rock chick.
Yeah. In preparing for this, though, and the idea of doing a final tour, I mean, had there been any discussion about talking to Dave Allen about bringing him back, or Sarah for that matter, or was that just off the table for them?
Sarah retired when she came back to join us in 22. She thought she'd be around for 6 or 9 months, and it was great fun, and it sort of extended into a little more than 2 years for her. And she said, "I'm exhausted. My ears hurt when I'm on stage. I'm a little old lady." Fabulous. And she has a lot of stuff in her life, so she retired again. She said, "I've been sleeping on tour buses for almost 40 years. I really don't want to do it anymore." So it was a fabulous time being able to play with her again. And so here we are. As for Dave, he's very much retired. He lives in the Northwest. He's got family, grandchildren. He's not playing or doing anything much at the moment. So we love him.
So we hit a little bit on your academic career, but what you did after Gang of Four, I think, is really interesting. I mean, you kind of got your hands into every little other part of music, and then eventually going into the academic side of it. But you went from Gang of Four to like a session musician. You played on sessions with Pill and ABC and Stan Ridgway, and then you get involved in management, and oddly enough, management of Shriekback with Dave Allen and Barry Andrews, and at one point also Julian Cope too. Tell me about that transition from being musician to manager. Was that a hard pivot for you, or was that just like a natural thing?
It wasn't hard at all. I mean, when I was in the band, in the very early days, it was Dave and I together who did most of the sort of organizing and sorting things out. Dave did a lot of the early booking because he had a phone in his house. The rest of us didn't have, But then when we signed our deals and had a proper agent and a publisher, I really enjoyed hanging out at our manager's office, at the record label offices, with our agent occasionally, just because I found the whole machinery of it fascinating. And I also, as I've said to countless students over the last 25 years, musicians who don't pay attention to their own business are just hurting themselves. And we had made so many poor decisions business wise over the years that I just thought I need to know more about this because I don't want to make these same mistakes. And when I left Gang of Four, and you said I did sessions, I mean, mostly it was TV sessions, but I did a couple of other recording sessions with people. But the hardest part was I felt like I was not a very good drummer, but I was a great Gang of Four drummer, and which I remain. And it just fell into, she said, "Oh, do you want to come out and do this?" And my brother was managing people by that time, Neil Arthur from Blancmange, and had been working with Shriekback himself after being with us on the road. And we just, because we love each other and we enjoy each other's company, we started working together, doing tour management, because I like being on the road and I like being in and around people who are playing and creating, even if it's not me. And then when I moved to New York in the summer of '88, it was just a few months later that Island Records asked me to go and do A&R with them. And it's just like, this is great. Oh my God, a paycheck, which I'd never had before. So yeah, that's really how I got into that. And that kept me going for about 10 years, working with labels in New York and Los Angeles, and then went back to management briefly before started teaching, which I think I mentioned last time. I ran into an old friend, an Englishman, John Lay, who managed Squeeze and Robin Hitchcock and various other people, and he brought me into academia to teaching. So yeah, it wasn't a hard transition at all. Because I was still able to be around it without the pressure of drumming for lots of different people that I didn't feel very comfortable doing.
You also transitioned out of a lot of that before the record industry really started to go through these major cataclysmic changes, and not necessarily for the better. You know, A&R work today is not the same as it was in 1991 or 1985 or whatever. When you're talking with kids, especially the college level, they're looking to find a pathway to have a career that may be lucrative or just enough to survive. It is a totally different world for musicians and record companies and everybody else for that matter. Knowing what you know now, what do you tell a kid that's looking to develop a career? Obviously, to be more involved in business, but what does that really mean for a young kid who's 20 years old trying to figure out where he's going to take the next step?
I can't really. When I was first teaching, it was easy because the business hadn't changed that much by then, although it was starting. If you want to be a musician, anyone can do it. I mean, the gatekeepers are not the way they were when we started, and for a couple of decades after that. But it's very difficult to make a living as a performer, whether you're an actor, dancer, musician, whatever. And I think you have to go in with your eyes open to understand that, do it the best you can, do everything you can as a hobby. And then if you're lucky, something else might happen. You know, play in a wedding band, play on cruise ships, play. If you really want to play and play and play, then do it. Go anywhere to play. Do not think of it as a career path. It may turn into one. The barriers are much easier to breach now. I mean, anybody can put their stuff up on the streaming services. And I'm not going to get into a big argument about the pluses and minuses of streaming, but it's where we're at. Streaming has saved the industry at large. There's a shitload of money there for people who are being successful. And most people complaining about streaming and Spotify is, the easiest target. They don't understand how it works. They just don't understand. And yet the information is out there, but no, it's much easier to be a sort of knee-jerk overreaction. Oh, musicians aren't getting paid anything. Well, they are if people are listening. And they are if they're going on the road and people are coming to see them. The live business is fantastic. Is it easy? No. But, you look at not that Billboard has any real relevance anymore, but didn't they just make Michael Rapino the number one player of the year in the industry? Michael Rapino, promoter.
Yeah.
So if you're good and people like you, they'll come and see you play. And if you're good, as opposed to just having had a hit and they come and see you once and that's it, one arena tour and you're done. which happens to a lot of pop music. But there are people playing at Madison Square Garden every week that most people have never heard of and selling it out. That's the industry. We're not all hooked up to the same pipeline of information and sounds. We're not all watching MTV. The big P1 radio stations around the country aren't all playing the same stuff. Plus, nobody's really listening to terrestrial radio anymore. So, yeah, don't expect anything. Go for it. The joy of playing, and if you can go out and play once, twice, 3 times a week or a month, and you're not losing money, there's a win right there, and you might get lucky. It's really that simple. But anybody can put their music out, and you've just got to work harder. There are fewer people, record labels, publishers, but who say, "Oh yeah, we'll help you develop because we think there's something there." No, different world, entirely different world. I'm not the best person to advise young people. They come in here every now and again into my office at school. And I have people who want to do internships in the music industry. It's like, well, you're going to be working for a management company, a promoter, or a marketing company. You won't work for a record company unless you've got your network can get you in there, unless you live in New York City or Nashville, Los Angeles, or wherever it is. It's hard. It's very hard. So you make more money developing games than making music.
You do. And and it's funny how people are targeting their music, and whether it could be visual arts or film or whatever. It's funny how now it's all about Instagram reels and TikToks, and how valuable that is. It's like what MTV used to be in the 80s. Now this is like the new way of promoting yourself, and it's all about trying to bust through an algorithm, which to me just seems to be really hard to do. You almost have to be above the curve to be able to manipulate that in a way that's going to work for you.
Yeah, I mean, look how many acts got signed to major labels or big indie labels back in the day, and how many of them succeeded. I mean, thank God for Madonna and the Spice Girls and everyone else won, big, huge acts, and one may not like, because they make so much money for the machine to be able to give smaller acts a chance to develop, even though probably fewer than 5%, maybe fewer than, it's a small percentage of acts who ever went into the black and broke even against advances from labels and publishers.
So 1979, you guys release, Entertainment, and obviously, we're talking about like a different era of the business. But in 1979, you guys, or 78 or whatever it was, you guys signed a contract with EMI, and I don't know if it was favorable for you guys or not favorable, whether you ever got to the point where you did get into the black. But those were different times as far as. They really were the gatekeepers. I mean, even in a situation where you guys are playing very experimental, kind of esoteric music, they still found interest in you. Even a big company like EMI. You're 22 years old. I mean, how well prepared were you at that moment to say, this is a good deal, this is not a good deal, or did you just say, it's a deal, let's sign it?
No, nothing like that. We were being chased by every major label in the country, except for Island Records, which was really the only label we wanted to sign to. We'd been with an independent label with Fast Product, and we never made a penny from them, never got any accounting, anything. So the whole thing of, the indies are trustworthy and the indies are better for you. It's like, no bollocks. That's not necessarily true. And that's not an absolute, but just our experience was it was great for us in terms of helping us build our reputation, which was as much as anything largely by our performing, our playing. I mean, that's what really turned the excitement on. That, and obviously John Peel being very keen on us and that first single. And when you're in a country that small, one radio show can make the difference and really drive the thing. We signed to EMI for very specific reasons, as opposed to some of the other labels. We took about anywhere between 25 to 30% of other advances we were offered because of a number of things. One was we got a higher royalty rate as a new act. Still wasn't very high, but it was, 2 or 3 points higher than anyone else. Two, we had complete creative control. And the Clash sang about it, but they didn't have it. We had it. If we delivered if they could make records out of the masters we delivered them, they had to. They couldn't turn it down and say, oh, it's too much this or it's too much that. If it works, it works. They couldn't turn down things that we did all our own artwork. So that made a huge difference. And the third thing was the people. But I mean, there were some really good people at EMI, even though we ended up pissing off some of them when we walked off Top of the Pops. But the A&R guy who signed us, Chris Briggs, who we're still friends with, he understood us, he got us, he wanted us, as opposed to wanting us because everyone else wanted us. He was righteous. And it was the same thing when we subsequently, just before the end of 79 or beginning of 80, we only signed for the rest of the world with EMI. Then we signed with Warner Brothers in the States. And again, it was the people. I may be repeating things I said last time. Jerry fucking Wexler signed us. His son said, Dad, you got to check this band out. And we did. And he signed us. And the people at Warner's were fabulous back then. Great label, so artist oriented. So we were very lucky. We were very lucky with that. So that's why we turned down a lot of money.
Yeah. But, there is something to be said about what you did get in return. I mean, creative control. I mean, you could go down the list of bands that signed to labels over the decades, and so few people actually obtain that. It's like a massive fight, and then they wind up regretting it.
Oh, hang on one sec. I'm not being rude. I'm just responding to John. John said hello. He said he would have come, but he's in the studio doing the audio book version of his memoirs.
That's quite all right. The idea of creative control, I mean, how few people were able to obtain that, throughout history. People, weren't able to get it and then, wind up regretting it as a result.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't speak for anyone else. I mean, we have many regrets, but I think we did the right thing for ourselves, the way we were at the time and what we wanted to do. We didn't have to have arguments about, well, I don't quite like that color on the album, or, the first thing back from EMI, where are your pictures? Where are your photos on the album sleeve? Look at us, we're ugly. Why? So, things like that. And, quite a few of the people were confused about what we were doing and why we were doing it and our sound. It's like, yeah, nice demos. No, this is it, mate.
Obviously when you're trying to put this thing to rest and you're looking to retire the band and do a final tour, I mean, I'm sure you must think of Andy Gill quite a lot when you're doing this. How do you think he would look at this, a final tour and, 45 years since Entertainment came out? I mean, what would be your sense about how Andy would view all this?
I have no idea. I really can't. It was always very difficult to get it into Andy's head. So it wasn't easy touring with Andy. When we reformed in 2005, it was a sort of done deal that we'd be working with his manager, who was managing him for his producing career. And that was not a good decision. But again, it was one of those sort of things of, are we going to start all this again by arguing about things or just go with the flow? So we went with the flow. But it was, again, it wasn't ultimately a good thing for us working with that manager. We have a great management team who are based in Manchester, England, but also here in the States, in Connecticut. And they've been terrific for us. I can't remember. It was a while ago talking to Richard Jones. They managed the Pixies and a bunch of other people. I said, God, where were you when we were first starting? He said, I was 12.
So now that it's the four of you, and this is you're looking at the end of it now. How do you feel this compares to other times where the band has been together? I mean, do you feel you must feel really good about, how you guys are sounding and how you guys are playing. From a fan's perspective, can they look for good things here?
Well, yeah, of course. We are fabulous.
That's the answer I expected out of you.
We're a great live band.
Yeah.
I mean, John the greatest frontman. I am the best Gang of Four drummer that's ever lived. Gail brings fabulous whole dynamic to it, and Ted. We just did 3 days of rehearsal last week here at school before the students all came back, and every weekend from now going down to Rhode Island where Gail lives, and Ted comes up from New Jersey, and we're spending weekends rehearsing. And then John will fly over in March so we can do some actual show rehearsals. It's fun. It's fun. It's just we said to Ted the same as we said to Dave Parho. Listen, Andy's guitar playing. You know the songs. Honor them, but you're the guitar player now. We want your version of honoring the way it was. And I think Dave Parho did such a fabulous job, and he had a wonderful time. And Ted is, again, so it's just like, me? Really? Wow. He's great. He's really good.
So after this is all said and done, are you looking forward to just you're relaxing in a good old-fashioned 9-to-5 job at Endicott?
Well, academia is barely 9 to 5. It's not relaxing, although I do love almost everybody I work with. I like my job because I'm helping students prepare for the big world. I run the internship program here with one other person in the Visual and Performing Arts School. So we get it, we understand. And I think the students know both of us. My partner has been in and around, well, she's been in the art world for decades. It was her career. She's been working at museums. She's fabulous. I don't look after the performing arts students. She does, because half of our school is interior designers and architecture majors. And I actually look after them. It's just the way because we split them down the middle, although I have a few more, but it's a good place to work. It's relaxing, no. Hard? Am I digging ditches? No. Am I clocking in to go and work at a bank or a lawyer's office and clocking out at 4:30 or having to take lunch? No. So I'm not relaxing. I'm going to carry on working for at least another 3-4 years, because I actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's a good place to work. It's fairly near home. And I can't afford to retire until my daughter's tuition.
Well, I can, having put 3 girls through college, I can totally understand how you feel. It is a miracle that they're able to get through, and I didn't go broke doing it.
Yeah. Well, and plus my wife, Sarah, makes movies. And as long as she's working, which takes her away from home for sort of months on end at a time, as long as she's still doing that, then what am I going to do? Sit at home and play golf? I'm not that good at golf.
Hugo, it's a pleasure to talk to you again. I wish you guys all the best of luck in this tour, and thank you so much. I've been a fan of Gang of Four for as long as I can remember. So it's a real joy to talk to you again.
Thank you, Baxie. You coming to see us?
I would love to. Hopefully we can. I can find a way to get out there. Would love to do it.
Send me an email. Come and be our guest, whether it's Boston or Gloucester. Come along and be our guest.
Appreciate it.
I'm not saying that to your listeners, only you.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to hand out your email address to everybody. That's just between you and me.
Yeah, okay. All right, brother. Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you. Take care now. The U.S. leg of the Gang of Four's Long Goodbye Tour kicks off on April 18th at the Westport Public Library in Westport, Connecticut. From there, it goes to the Glut in Gloucester, Mass. the following night before heading to the Chrystal Ballroom in Boston on April 20th. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok for regular updates. You can also email me at bax@rock102.com. I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks to Metro Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram at Chicopee for their support, but most of all, thanks to you for listening to Baxie's Musical Podcast.